So why did you join OIST, like Okinawa?
So we came to know about OIST Innovation Accelerator Program from our investors, and OIST is very unique. So this is a government-funded program, and OIST is unique in the sense that it has a very international makeup. I think 50 to 60% professors are international. They have amazing facilities, focus on deep tech, and a lot of researchers and postdocs are also international.
Okay, so you are going to San Francisco from next Monday, right? So tell us about the story.
So we were part of two JETRO programs. One of them was JETRO Alchemist, and most recently JETRO Blitzscaling Ventures program. And we were selected as the final three startups that would be trained by some of the best minds in Silicon Valley in business development, sales, outreach, campaigns, and investment and fundraising. And so part of the program was in Tokyo and or in Japan, and now the remaining part of that program is in person in Silicon Valley. So we'd be going there for around 10 days, and we'll be meeting our mentors and advisors in person, some in-person sessions, plus attending some events. We'll also be meeting investors, other founders in AI space, and community managers and people in the startup ecosystem. So we're very excited to go there and meet more people and hopefully get more customers and investors. Anyone who is in Silicon Valley or has connections in Silicon Valley, we are looking to meet head of labs, professors, researchers in the US and Silicon Valley education ecosystem who have pain points that Veritus can solve. So please connect us with them. We'd happy to talk to them, show us our demo, and hopefully sell to them. And also, second, connect us with investors who invest in AI, especially in Japanese startups. So that would be great. So these two people we would really want to meet and love to talk to.
Thank you. By the way, so this is my personal question. So why did you join OIST, like Okinawa?
So we came to know about OIST Innovation Accelerator Program from our investors. So our investors, Lifetime Ventures, Koshu and Kimura-san informed us about this amazing program that they run out of OIST. And OIST is very unique. So this is a government-funded program. And OIST is unique in the sense that it has a very international makeup. I think 50 to 60% professors are international.
Really?
Yeah. And they have amazing facilities, focus on deep tech, and a lot of researchers and postdocs are also international. So I think 50 to 60% of OIST professors and researchers are international, which gave us an indication of an ecosystem that's global. So while we are doing pilots in Japanese universities and they are going very well, having an ecosystem which resembles a global university also was very useful for our product roadmap. So being there, we could talk to researchers, we could talk to professors, we could build things faster, get feedback very quickly, and improve the product.
So when did you join this program? Last year?
Yes, so it was also a multi-step selection process. There was a boot camp. Before boot camp, there was screening, of course. After boot camp, they selected 4 startups, and then we went there in June last year. So actually, Veritus work started at OIST. Before that, we just had an MVP, and we were getting our business manager visas and doing the processes. Once we reached OIST, then we started building, reaching out, demoing, doing pilots, customer discovery interviews. All that happened after we reached OIST.
I see. Okay, I understood. Okay, so this is my personal story, but last year I was in Okinawa in August, 10 days with my AI researcher friend. And we wanted to know why Okinawa is special. Like there are many people who live longer, right? Kind of ranking number one in globally, right? It's amazing and big, beautiful nature. But they have a problem. So they have a original language, Ryukyu language. And nowadays, only 80 years old, like super old people can speak, listen this original language. Mostly dead language, right? We could ask some big company like Google, and then we can do volunteer project, training to open source, like train Ryukyu language, maybe 1,000 language. This model can help preserve Okinawan Ryukyu language, culture, and food recipes. This is good. Doesn't make money, but social good. I think as a like this big company, it's good for great use case. What do you think? Oyster, do they do similar activity? Just curious.
So at Oyst, our work has mostly been with the innovation accelerator. So Anna San runs the accelerator with Lauren and Gil, and we work primarily with them. So our interaction is mostly on Veritus products and feedback and customer interviews. We do see, however, that Oyster is quite integrated with the wider community. Like the technology that they're building, I think I saw something about beekeeping, and then something like they build a lot of agri-tech, fisheries technologies, and ecosystem technologies like preservation of marine habitats. So a lot of technologies that they build help Okinawa in general. So in that ways, they have a lot of communication and connection with the society. I think they also have Ryukyu frogs, young students from Okinawa and the Ryukyu region to be entrepreneurs. So they bring them to Oyst and they connect us with them. So they do a lot of work with the wider society at Okinawa. That's my impression.
Okay. So, but I don't want to give up this project. Just a volunteer work. No one make money, but good for like saving culture, right? So, who should I reach out? Just from your observation.
I can definitely connect you with people from Oyst, especially if you're focused on startups and entrepreneurship at Oyst. I can connect you with Oyst Innovation Accelerator people, Anna, Gil, Lauren. They can definitely take the conversation forward.
So at least I could interview them, and if they want, they can promote their
new batch
right.
of startups.
Good, yeah.
They have 4 new startups coming in.
I could go then, and I can do interview them.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so Manas, go back to your story. So tell us about your milestone in 2025.
Right, so we are actually very excited about this year. We have built a product. We have done hundreds of customer interviews. We have done 2 pilots so far and seen promising results from those. So now it is the time for the real test, launch and sell, and get prompt feedback and iterate. Our ambitious goal for this year is to reach $100,000 MRR by the end of this year. So that's our ambitious goal. We have broken it down into quarters and months. So that's what we're going to do this year: build and sell.
Build and sell, yes. Let's do it.
So first of all, I would like to thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. I've seen many of your podcasts and the initiative that you're running with Dave now, working with founders, especially foreign founders in Japan, bringing out their stories and sharing their journeys and challenges. Like, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And that's it. So for Veritus, again, if anyone knows anyone in Silicon Valley, investors, professors, researchers, startup ecosystem people, connect me with them, and I would love to meet them.
Please reach out, Manas to LinkedIn. I can put the link.
That would be great.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for having me.
Bye bye. Thank you so much. The 3 key takeaways from a conversation with Manas, part 2. Okay, 1. Taking Japanese deep tech to the global stage. Manas and Veritus are expanding their AI research tool beyond Japan through programs like JETRO, Blitzscaling Ventures, and Alchemist. Their upcoming trip to Silicon Valley is a crucial step where they will connect with AI researchers, university labs, and investors who specialize in deep tech startups. He sees this as an opportunity to refine their global sales strategy, attract early adopters, and raise investment from firms interested in AI-powered research solutions. Example, Manas and his team, and specifically looking to meet research head, professors, and industry researchers in Silicon Valley who experience the same workflow inefficiencies that Veritus aims to solve. Key insight: entering global market requires strong industry network and investment backing. Silicon Valley provides a launchpad for Veritus to test, scale, and build international partnership. 2. Why OIST was the perfect place to build Veritus? Manas chose OIST Innovation Accelerator because of its international research environment, a rare feature in Japan, with 50 to 60% of its professors and postdocs being international. OIST mirrored the kind of global university ecosystem Veritus aimed to solve. Being in Okinawa also allowed Veritus to rapidly iterate their product by engaging directly with scientists, researchers, and tech-first professors. Example, before joining OIST, Veritus was just an MVP stage startup. After securing a spot in the accelerator, they conducted customer discovery, pilot, and rapid testing, refining their AI-powered research workflow automation. 3. Fixing a broken system. Why Veritus exists? Having worked as a researcher and seeing firsthand how thorough repetitive academic research workflow can be, Manas knew that solving this problem wasn't just business opportunity. It was essential research bottleneck, daily breakthrough in medicine, engineering, and AI, making workflow automation an urgent need. Example, one of his co-founders had a research paper stuck in peer review for 13 months, causing serious career setbacks. Another spent years stuck in repetitive literature reviews, slowing innovation. Veritus was born to free researchers from these inefficiencies, allowing them to focus on pushing scientific discovery forward. Key insight: the best startups solve real problems. Veritus isn't just another AI tool. It's a mission-driven company tackling research inefficiencies that slow down global innovation. Okay, thank you so much for watching our episode today. We hope today's conversation will help your future and career. If you like it, please subscribe us and give you a like. Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye. またね。